Okay. I'm supposed to first ask you what like you were born, where you grew up, where you live now. I think there was one other, but I can't remember. But it is recording right now.
Okay, my name is Jane Rutledge Muir. I was born July 31st, 1962, in Florence, Alabama. I currently live in San Diego, California.
Okay. The first question is: growing up, when did you realize that there were differences in skin color? Did somebody tell you?
I think maybe somebody told me. I remember that there were some protests, and I was probably 4 or 5 years old when some high school students were going to be um, protesting.
Okay.
And I remember that. But I don't think I was in school yet.
Um, Second question is: did you ever confront discrimination around you, and if so, why or why not? And what was the result?
Okay, so I remember, I don't know if I really understood what was going on, but I am not a confrontational person. So I don't think once I realized what was going on, I did not confront it because I was too shy to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a little girl, before I started school, we had a cleaning lady who was African American who came to help out my mom once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and I would drive over to her house and pick her up. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
being in the car and they were talking, and the cleaning lady, whose name was Willie Mae, she would
Mm-hmm.
call my mother Miss Judy. And I remember thinking, she shouldn't call her Miss Judy. Her name is just Judy. And I remember telling her that to just call her Judy, not Miss Judy. But she didn't listen to me and
All right.
that. But I think then I had an idea of, that there was something unequal there, and I
Mm.
wanted her to know that my mama was just like anybody else, and you can be friends with her. you know so but once I grew up and knew what was going on, I was too shy or scared to really do anything.
Okay. The third question is: did young people respond differently to the older community regarding race?
Yes, I think the older community was definitely more racist than the younger community. So maybe my grandparents were probably a little more racist. So they were born around 1900.
Okay.
And I think it was more prevalent then. I think my mother and father were less racist, and I think that people my age were even less racist.
Okay.
So I think it as the generations went on, my feeling is that racism got less, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Um, were there any? The fourth question is: were there any local discrimination sit-ins or that you remember or participated in?
I don't think there was anything. I think it was probably more overtly discriminatory. Things that happened, like where people lived. The African American people lived in one section of town, and the white people lived in another section of town. And I think there were no laws about that, but I think that it was just kind of a overt kind of thing that went on.
Okay.
But as I was growing up, all the laws were equal, had to be equal rights and that kind of thing. Those things were getting in place. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a new idea, but it was definitely happening.
Okay. The fifth question is: do you think the civil rights movement changed race relationships in the United States, and if so, what progress has been made?
I think it. I think the civil rights movement did improve things. I think that things were really bad before the civil rights movement. My mother tells me that she remembered when There was a water fountain for white people and a water fountain for black people. There were bathrooms for white people and bathrooms for black people.
Mm.
There were hotels and restaurants for black people and white people, and they could not, black
Wow.
people could not go in to white people areas. And that was gone when I grew up. So that's definitely better. But I
Mm-hmm.
do feel that people, white people, look upon black people as threats,
Mm.
and they judge them and profile them, and that they are being, and that the police are treating African American people more harsh than white people. They give white people a break where they would never give an African American person a break. I think that is bad, and I think that's still going on.
Okay. The sixth question is, what segments of the population do you think are victimized and oppressed today? And do you believe that the promise of equality has been fulfilled now?
Okay, I think that non white segments, particularly immigrants, Hispanic, I feel that black African American segments are discriminated against.
Mm.
I feel that it's because they tend to have less wealth.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the opportunity, they probably have less health care.
Mm-hmm.
So that keeps them from being able to perform well, even as children. They don't have, um, they're like both parents have to work, so they're not there to take care of the children or raise their children, like, say, some of the white families. There can be a
Mm-hmm.
mom that's home and that can help raise the children, and there are more opportunities just because of that. And so
Mm.
there's still, I think the equality has not reached a true
Um,
fulfillment
yeah.
because of that.
Okay. Seventh question is, what is your understanding of the Black Lives Matter movement?
My understanding is that there's a feeling that poor people are poor
Mm-hmm.
because somehow they choose to be. They're lazy. They don't, and that they don't matter like other, like white people do, and that feeling that, you know what, it's your fault, and their lives do matter just as much as a white person's does, and so you shouldn't racially profile them because they're black, they're up to no good, or
Mm-hmm.
because they're black, they're going to rob you or something like that. Their lives matter just as much as a white person's
Mm-hmm.
does. So that's what I think the movement is about.
Okay.
And that we can't just, when the police, when black people are victimized or harmed or a crime is against them, the police don't react in the same way and follow through as they would with a white person.
Okay. The eighth question is, what is the greatest accomplishment of the civil rights movement in your opinion?
Well, I think just getting to the point where we are now, that there's no more segregation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the greatest achievement. That's a big step, but I think there's a lot more that has to be done, and we can't just sit back and say that we're done, because people in general think people don't see everyone as being equal or having the same equal rights. I feel that no matter what your color, your gender, your background, you should be able to have the same health and education and opportunities for health care and education as anybody. I feel that's a right, and we're not there yet. And some people feel that they're not rights, and that it. So I think we have a long way to go to get to that point where those basic things like being healthy and having medicine when you're sick, everybody having the same opportunity to get an education so that they can reach their full potential, whatever that is. They may not have the same abilities, but they should have the opportunity to reach their highest level that they can, that's possible for them. And that's not there yet. And that's where I think we need to get to. We may not ever be able to get there, but I think we should always work towards that. We shouldn't say, well, that's never going to happen, so we don't have to work towards it. I think we should work towards it no matter what.
Okay. The ninth question is, what is the biggest failure of the civil rights movement in your opinion, and what else can be done to improve the civil rights issue?
I think that the biggest failure is that we've kind of dropped the ball recently, and I think there was a feeling that we went as far as we could and everything was equal, and it wasn't. And there were people who had resentments and had fear because other people had just as much as they did, or they felt like other people were getting their jobs that were different from them and taking away their opportunities. Somehow we have to figure out how everyone can be equal and not fear. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to make those people not be afraid when other people start having, benefits and opportunities too. Anyway.
The 10th question is, did you experience any racism within your family growing up? This could be like racist remarks or opinions that your family wanted you to have about different races.
No, I think my immediate family, I didn't get that from them. I had like maybe some distant family, or not immediate family, but just a little bit out there, like an uncle, or not even an uncle, like a great uncle or something, maybe some of the older ones who had some leftover racism against. And it's mostly, growing up in Alabama, it was black and white. We didn't have Hispanics or anything, but there was a little bit. But my immediate family, I was always taught that everybody was equal, and I knew that black people did not have the same opportunities, but they were just as good and kind as white people. There was no reason, to not think that.
And the final question is, who do you think is the greatest contributor to the civil rights movement?
I guess I think Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
He was a peaceful man, and he went out there, and what he wanted for everyone was something to work towards, but he did it peacefully. So that means a lot, and I think that's something to always look towards and strive for, even though he's gone. It's really tragic that he was assassinated like he was, because he was a good man. Yeah, he had a good vision. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to help me with this. I don't know what really.
Okay, well, you're welcome, Sam. I'm glad to talk and have the opportunity to tell you what I think, always.
Okay, thank you.